We're going to finish the 11th chapter of the Wolves of Willoughby Chase and finish the book. Everything seems to have gone right. Miss Slycarp has been arrested. The parents are alive. The servants are returning. The orphans, still dazed at their good fortune, sat at a table of their own, eating roast turkey and kindly averting their gaze from the pale cheeks and red eyes of Diana Brisket, who, having been in a position to bully and hector as much as she pleased, was now reduced to a state where she had not a friend to stand by her. Mrs. Brisket had sold the school in Blastburn, and so Diana had nowhere to go, and was forced, willy-nilly, to stay with the orphans, where it may be said, in passing, wholesome discipline, and the example of Aunt Jane's unselfish nature soon wrought an improvement upon her character. Some of the parlor boarders and daughters of the nobility and gentry had been fetched away by their parents, such as lived near enough, and the rest were awaiting removal. Simon sat between Bonny and Sylvia. Sir Willoughby gave him some very kindly looks. He had heard by now of Simon's brave part in rescuing the girls, both from the wolves and from Mrs. Brisket's dreadful establishment, and of help with Aunt Jane's illness. The money he had spent had been returned to him with interest. "It looks as if we're going to have an adopted son as well as an adopted daughter," said Sir Willoughby. "Hey, my boy, what shall we do with you then? Put you through school?" "No, thank you, Sir Willoughby," said Simon gratefully but firmly. "School wouldn't suit me at all. What then? Can't just run wild." "I'm going to be a painter," Simon explained. "Dr. Field said I showed great promise, and he told me I could stay with him and go to one of the famous London art schools." "Oh, Simon," said Bonny, dismayed, "and leave Willoughby?" "I'll come back every holidays," he told her. "Remember, we promised to go and see Mr. Wilderness. I want to paint a picture of the great Windside, from the Dale, 100 other places round here." "Sensible lad," approved Mr. Sir Willoughby. "Well, always remember, whenever you come back, there's a warm welcome for you at Willoughby Chase." "Thank you, Sir Willoughby," said Simon, beaming. "And now, if you'll excuse me, I ought to be returning to my cave. I want to see how my bees are getting on." "Good night, Simon," cried Bonny and Sylvia. "We shall come and see you tomorrow." Bonny yawned. "It's long past these children's bedtime," said Sir Willoughby, "and they were travelling all night. Off with you now. I dare say your mother will be up by and by to say good night to you in bed." Their own room had been hastily prepared for them, and they were glad to thumb between the fine silken sheets. "And oh, Bonny," called Sylvia, "have you seen the pretty dresses Patton has been making for us?" "I've grown accustomed to boys' clothes," grumbled Bonny. "Oh, what nonsense, miss," said Patton scoldingly, and ruined the effect by giving Bonny a hug. "There now, go to sleep, you blessed pair, and don't let either of you move a muscle till you're called. We've had quite enough to worry about today, with everything at 6s and 7s, and no servants to speak of, and 100 orphans to feed. Mind, you're not to speak a word till 8 o'clock. You're not even to dream." "Dream," muttered Bonny sleepily. "We can't help dreaming, Patton. We've so much to dream about, the wolves and Miss Slycarp, and walking to London, and helping poor Aunt Jane and Mamma and Papa adrift in a boat full of oranges and grapes." Her voice trailed away into sleep. Light after light in the windows of the great house was extinguished, until at length it stood dark and silent. And though the house had witnessed many strange scenes, wolf hunts, and wine drinking, and weddings, and wars, it is doubtful whether during its whole history any of the inmates had such adventures as those of Sylvia and Bonny Green. And that's the end of the book. There are 11 more books in this series. So if I read them year by year, that'll be a long time. But stay tuned next year. I will read you either The Whispering Mountain, which I just found out takes place before this, but I actually have that book, or I will read you Black Hearts in Battersea, which takes place right after and is about Simon becoming a painter. And you can always make requests at the bottom of the video. I would love to hear what you thought of the reading. I know my voices were not consistent, but it's fine to point it out anyway. I will probably have another book started for you this very evening. And thanks, as always, for watching these, and let me know what you think.